Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the National Carnival Commission of Trinidad and Tobago, to the Auditor General's office and the representatives there, Deputy Auditor General and others, my colleagues here. Welcome also to the members of the public gallery and most especially to the members of the media. I also want to welcome members of Community Development, the Ministry, who are here. And we thank you for coming. This meeting would not be able to proceed smoothly without the presence of all of you. My name is Boindra Dutt Tiwari. I'm the chair of the Public Accounts Committee. I'm a member, like everybody else on this committee, and member for Carnival Central. The purpose of this meeting of the Public Accounts Committee is to examine the expenditure and expenditure and internal controls of the National Carnival Commission of Trinidad and Tobago, NCC, for the years 2010 to 2018. The committee is desirous of hearing the challenges being faced by the key stakeholders at the National Carnival Commission of Trinidad and Tobago in an attempt to determine some of the possible solutions to these challenges. The role of the committee is to help the NCC improve its delivery of services in an efficient, effective, and economical manner. Now, this meeting is being held in public and is being broadcast live, so we are live right now on the Parliament's Channel 11 and Radio 105.5 FM, and also on the Parliament's YouTube channel, ParlView. Viewers and listeners can participate. They can send their comments related to today's topic via email, and that email is parl101@ttparliament.org, or facebook.com/ttparliament, or Twitter, which is @ttparliament. Now, what I will do at this point is that I will ask members of the Auditor General's Department who are here to introduce themselves. I would also ask the members of the Ministry of Community Development and Culture and the Arts, to introduce themselves. Then members of the National Carnival Commission of Trinidad and Tobago, and also my committee members will introduce themselves as well, so we will all know who we are talking to. All right, so would you introduce yourself, and then what I will do, I will ask the Permanent Secretary, and after her, the Chairman, to give an opening statement, and then we'll begin the questions, okay? Begin with the members of the Auditor General's office.
Good morning, all. Shiva Sinanan, Assistant Auditor General.
Good morning, all. Riaz Ali, Audit Director, Acting.
Good morning. Nanda Sukdev Ramphali, Assistant Audit Director.
Good morning. Angela Edwards, Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Community Development, Culture and the Arts.
Good morning. Kevon Swan, Director, Legal Services.
Good morning. Candace Hickson, Director, Planning and Implementation Unit.
Good morning, everyone. Desiree Modest Bascom, Research Officer, Ministry of Community Development, Culture and the Arts.
Good morning. I'm Winston Gypsy Peters, and I'm the Chairman of the National Carnival Commission.
Good morning, Chairman and members. Colin Lucas, Chief Executive Officer, National Carnival Commission.
Good morning. Asha Gosain, Corporate Secretary.
Good morning. Nigel Williams, Acting Finance Manager, National Carnival Commission.
I shall ask the members of this PAC committee to introduce themselves.
Good morning, all. I am Randall Mitchell, member. Good morning all. Taharko Obika, Vice Chairman.
Well, I introduce myself, Boindra Tiwari, Chair.
Good morning, Ayana Webster Roy, Member.
And the two other members with me are members of the Secretariat of the Parliament. I want to especially welcome, I see members in the public gallery and members of the media here. I want to especially welcome them. So I'll ask the Permanent Secretary and then the Chairman, if you would please make an opening statement.
Good morning again. The Ministry of Community Development, Culture and the Arts is responsible for culture, among other things. And it is in this regard that the National Carnival Commission, which is responsible to the Minister of Culture, the Ministry has responsibility and oversight for the National Carnival Commission. This oversight responsibility involves primarily ensuring that the statutory documents are submitted on time, that we interact with and we liaise with the Budget Division, the Ministry of Finance regarding their requests for releases and their expenditure, and we also provide guidance and direction where necessary in their operations and their programs. Thank you.
Chairman.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. And on behalf of the National Carnival Commission of Trinidad and Tobago, I welcome the opportunity to present before this committee today. The current board has been in effect from November 2017 with a few changes in 2018. I joined in my current position in April of 2018, taking over from Mr. Colin Lucas, who is now the Chief Executive Officer, acting. On the board, we have Ms. Rosalind Gabriel, President of the TTCBA, who joined on June 2018. Ms. Beverly Ramsey Moore, President of Trinbago, who joined in November of 2018. As it stands at present, we have a full complement of 9 officials on the Board of Commissioners. With our board management and staff, we avidly pursue the business to which we have been assigned and that for which we assume and accept total responsibility. As many of you are aware, the National Carnival Commission has been in existence since 1991, incorporated by statute some 27 years ago. The Commission has 3 basic objectives: to make Carnival a viable national, cultural, and indeed commercial enterprise, to provide the necessary managerial and organizational infrastructure for the efficient and effective presentation and marketing of the cultural product of Carnival, and indeed to establish arrangement for ongoing research, the preservation and permanent display of annual accumulation of Carnival products created each year by the artisans of Carnival. In this regard, at the National Carnival Commission, as part of our mandate to transform Carnival from an annual one event into a sustainable year-long industry, we actively collaborate with all our stakeholders across many sectors and communities, locally and internationally. Additionally, we continue to examine, re-examine, and streamline many of our internal and traditional practices and systems, bringing them closer in line with the best practice standards and another way of pursuing our objectives. And as we do this, in concert with many stakeholders, both public and private, we routinely look at every aspect of the festival, from the regional carnival and stick fighting to the Dimanche Gras Show, Juve, and indeed Parade of the Bands on Monday and Tuesday, with an eye towards making it a better event. This includes increasing marketing and promotions, as well as gaining sponsorship necessary for the survival of many of our festival staples. Our multi-sectorial approach to Carnival has worked well in recent years, and I want to just take this moment to thank all our partners through the years for their hard work and support, including, of course, our public safety and security officials. Looking ahead, we intend to take each year and build on what we have achieved, on what was achieved, as a way of moving forward in our objectives. One of our most noteworthy ambition, Mr. Chairman, we had this year was to increase audiences and attract persons back to the Queen's Park Savannah, which by now everybody knows is renamed Carnival City. I am pleased to say that we have done exactly that, hosting a number of well-attended events throughout the season. Additionally, as we continue to market Carnival to the world, we have significantly improved on the product and events that we offer for both sponsorship and the viewing public. The goal here is simple. We intend to bring Carnival back in ways that are festive, inclusive, respectful, financially viable, and economically sustainable, and indeed safe. We intend to bring it back in ways that encourage more visitors to our shores and in ways that leave them with the kind of lasting memories that will bring them and their friends and family back to our shores year after year. We seek this because, as we all know, our Carnival has not been able to generate successful years of increases in foreign visitorship for a number of years. In closing, I would like to add that our most valuable contribution to the people of Trinidad and Tobago is ensuring a safe and enjoyable Carnival where people are free to express their creativity. To be fair, Mr. Chairman, we continue to face a number of challenges, which again, we are working with our stakeholders to address. This is a work in progress. Our Carnival, with its wide and varied array of events and business opportunities, goes way beyond the parties and fete and colorful costume. While our Carnival is rich and has more diverse cultural products and experiences than other carnivals, that alone is not enough to compete with the heavy competition coming from the Caribbean, from our Caribbean neighbors, and indeed the wider world. While we appreciate and love what makes our Carnival different, we know that it cannot be business as usual to sit back and expect the world to come to us year after year without putting in real sustainable effort to market our unique product as the most original, vibrant, and deserving of people's patronage. With this in mind, we know that we have some work to do. And to that end, we continue to bring our processes and system up to the present, our processes and systems up to the present and in line with best practices standard as we approach Carnival 2020. I thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you very much, Chairman. Thank you very much, Permanent Secretary. Permanent Secretary, I will start with you with the questions and based on something that you said. And I will begin by asking some questions, and then my colleagues, we will rotate so that you would have the engagement of the entire committee here this morning. The first thing I want to ask, Permanent Secretary, is that you indicated that part of the responsibility of the ministry is that the NCC meet its statutory requirements and obligations. And we have a situation here where, for all intents and purposes, you have large numbers of unaudited accounts due to the ministry. Is there a challenge there for you as the ministry to have this done? What is the relationship between the ministry and the NCC? Is it easy, uneasy? Is it difficult? Go ahead.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, not having
And
audited.
the more honest and clear you are, the stronger we can make recommendations that can be of value, okay?
The last audited statements, I believe we have, is for the year 2009. And Auditor General are the auditors as stated in the Act for the National Carnival Commission. The lack of audited financial statements does pose a problem in terms of identifying what the gaps are, what the weaknesses are in the controls and the internal processes of the Auditor General. Understandably, the ministry doesn't have that capacity to do that thorough analysis of the financial situation in the NCC. So that poses a problem to us. NCC has forwarded, I believe, and CEO or Chairman could confirm this, they have forwarded their draft accounts up till 2012. Those are with the Auditor General. They are still finalizing 2013 to 2017. Those are still with the NCC. So looking at that, the last approved audited financial position we have is 2009, which is 8 years, no, 10 years, 10 years later. So it doesn't give a current picture, a current situation of what is happening with the NCC. And so, to answer your question, it is a challenge. We do have a good working relationship with the NCC. NCC would respond. I liaise more with CEO, of course. And the response is there and the willingness is there, but the documents are a bit slow in coming. And for various reasons, which I suppose CEO will speak to. And that also proves to be challenging, because apart from the financial statements, NCC is mandated according to the Act to submit an annual report. We have not had an annual report probably for the last 10 years, and that report is critical to the ministry's oversight, because that report will provide the data and the evidence that we need in terms of the events, money spent, numbers, persons attending, that kind of measurable assessment of the programs of the NCC. That report will provide the evidence that we need. We have not been able to get an annual admin report. So in the absence of both those sorts of documents, it does present a challenge to the ministry.
What is the extent, in your estimation, of the power of oversight of the ministry over the NCC? I mean, to make compliance enforceable?
That is limited, because we have to rely on moral suasion, engaging the NCC to understand the need and the critical reasons for having these documents. But apart from that, there is no other power that the ministry has to mandate the submission of these documents.
Okay. One final question to UPS, which is that when I look at the actual expenditure here from 2010 to 2017, which is a 7-year period, you have a total expenditure of $1,748,125,692, which is a substantial amount, $1.7 billion. What it means based on the information you have and the information that we have here in the documents is that all of this money for the period have not really been accounted for in terms of audited accounts. Is that troublesome to you as Permanent Secretary, and have you raised this matter over time?
Yes, it is troubling, especially in the current economic situation. It is, because we are not in a position, we don't have the evidence. We need to properly review the programming and the commensurate expenditure of the NCC, and that places the ministry in a difficult position to responsibly account, with, of course, the Auditor General's reports, to account for this expenditure. So to answer your question, it is really a major challenge to the ministry.
Okay, I'll go over to the chairman. Chairman, when you spoke, you talked about some recurring issues and challenges. Could you identify some of them for us, and would you take into account this issue of the unaudited accounts? But you need not limit yourself to that as well, in terms of the challenges that you sense. I mean, you are a person who understands Carnival, you live it, you are part of it, and you are now managing it. I mean, you're leading it.
Thank you very much.
What are some of the challenges, the problems?
Well, the challenges start from the inception of the creation of Carnival management, as it were, because the fact is that it starts with us, in the first instance, not getting our remuneration on time, in a timely fashion. And because of that, I have inherited a reoccurring backlog of expenditure that you have to use from this year to finance the next year, and the next year to finance the year before, and the year before to finance the year before, and the year before. So you keep carrying on this whole thing all the time, and it starts with that. So it starts with where you get late, your money is subvented to you very late, and when you do get the money, this is my experience over the last year, because I'm there for a year. This month is 1 year since I'm there. And that's my experience. My experience is finances. Because if you got the finances on time, like take for instance, if we were to get our subvention right now for 2020, half of it or 3/4 of it would be going to pay this year's expenses, or not or even this year's expenses, but expenses from years gone by, because we keep carrying that all the time. And I would believe that the problem starts there.
Okay, let me just ask you a quick question. What is the debt that you have now? Let's say the government were to take the position, or the ministry were to take the position, or the Minister of Finance were to take the position. We are going to give NCC a clean slate.
Yeah.
Let them start fresh. What would be the debt that you have?
To accurately answer that, I would have to call on my finance person, Mr. Williams, who would be able to answer exactly,
okay. All right.
To tell us exactly what the recurring debt is and what the outstanding debts are. Mr. Williams, you have that? Yeah. Okay. And I wish that it was as easy as that, as you say there, and that could have happened. That would have been good. It would have put me in a very good position.
Well, that would be a solution, but you have to have money.
Well,
right? Yeah.
And I agree. I totally agree.
Yeah. Well, coming forward from 2018, fiscal 2018, we had a $34 million debt. $34 million debt coming forward from 2018.
That is based on this Carnival, is that?
Last Carnival.
Last Carnival.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's to say Carnival just gone?
No.
Or the Carnival before?
The Carnival, yeah, prior.
Okay.
So, yeah, so we came forward with a 34.9 debt.
Okay.
I believe our allocation, we received just about the equivalent short in 2018. We received about $44 million short of what was allocated.
So for 2019, you would have another $44 million debt?
Approximately.
Right. Okay, and is that your total debt? That's 44 and 448 and 2068 million dollars. Is 24 you said the first time? For
no,
2018?
34.
34.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it'll be 78 then. Is that the total debt that you now have?
Approximately, yeah.
Okay, and you have no other outstanding matters that you need to settle and so on? This would cover all your debt?
Yes, it will.
All right, okay. So if this were, let's say hypothetically, this debt were wiped out, the NCC would be in a position to start fresh for Carnival 2020.
Yeah.
And I heard your chairman to say that this money needs to be allocated well before rather than just prior to Carnival. Did I understand you properly, Chairman?
Yes, you did, because if you get the money just before Carnival, it encumbers you to do the things that you have to do. And a lot of ways we rely on on the generosity of the people or the providers to give us the service even long before their money. Half of that debt that he's talking about there is owed to providers. People who provide us from year to year, and they have to wait until next year to get this year money, and so they have been waiting through the years to get their money, and that's why we have the same providers all the time, basically, because they are the people who have the capability to do it, and they are the ones who can withstand giving you the service and waiting on their money.
Okay, but I mean, you raise an important point there, which is that does the fact that the NCC lives in debt constantly from year to year, does that tie your hand in terms of getting the best value for
my
money?
hand, my feet, and my brain.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So in a way, that is a way of encumbering you. That helps to encumber you.
Yes, it does.
And limit your capacity for real free choice in the marketplace.
And limit our capacity to make Carnival a better product. Because let me tell you, my way of running Carnival, we use ourselves, all of us in Trinidad and Tobago, as the artisans who would bring people to Trinidad and Tobago. And in order to bring people to any country, you first have to let them know what kind of product you have. And if I'm not getting the money now, like I could tell you, I went to New York just after I got my appointment as chairman to, in fact, promote our carnival, as every other country who has a carnival now will do except us. Promote your carnival out of Trinidad and Tobago, where you would have people come to your country for Carnival. And I went to the relevant people in America that I know to promote my Carnival. Everything was set. The only thing that wasn't set was the money. And by the time we got the money in December to send it to them, or December or January, it's a waste of time to even invest that kind of money then, because you wouldn't get the benefit from it. Yeah. So let us say that now, if we were given some money now to do that, then we would see the benefit of that promotion during Carnival, because we have all carnivals all over the world that we need to promote our carnivals at, as they would promote their carnival in our carnival. Yeah. But they are allocated their money early to do that. They see the benefit in it. We don't. Because we are waiting here now. We're going to get our money maybe in December. By that time, you can promote Carnival anywhere, because unlike the providers in Trinidad, if we have to promote our Carnival, let's take, for instance, in America now, the people, they are not going to take it on credit. We have to find the money to give it to them. And so we don't have it. And that's why I said that getting our money late encumbers us from doing anything.
All right, let me ask you a question that would allow you to highlight something positive. What would you say would be the NCC's main accomplishment or accomplishments within, let's say, recent times, the last 2 years?
I would say that during my tenure, which is this year, is running a successful carnival, partly achieving what we set out to achieve with limited resources.
Okay, how do you measure that success?
Well, we measure that success by the amount of people who attend our festivals. We measure that success by the people, by listening, by practicality, by listening to what people are saying about, in comparatively speaking, and that's how we measure a lot of it. And that's how you measure culture in a lot of ways. That's how you know if your culture is going right or wrong. And that is exactly what we do. And this year we know for a fact that we have promoted Carnival basically locally and regionally in some ways as much as we can. And we had, based on our just a cursory glance at what we have done on the success that we have had, we know we can tell you that it was successful, yes.
Okay, you said your financial officer indicated that you had $34 million debt in 2018, and it's now 44. You have 44 million in 2019. Yeah. Now, that could be a combination of shortfall from the government.
Yes.
But it could also involve a situation in which economically you did not do as well as you anticipated. Which one is it?
Well, it is an accumulation of both, really, because you have a shortfall, because you know that we all hear people involved in public life, and we know that in ministries or what have you, when the government budgets certain things, based on the monetary constraint, you don't always get your budgeted amount. But at the same time, when you have a budgeted amount and you have something to do, if you are able to accomplish that by way of credit and stuff, you will go ahead and do it to that amount. If you know you have $10 to get, let's take for instance, you don't have the physical $10, but you can get the services for the $10, so you will go ahead and get it. And after you get that service and you did not get the $10, you get $5. Then that means you have $5 that you carry in debt. And this is exactly what's been happening. So all that money, yes, is a shortfall. It is because of the investments that you have made in some cases with an expectation of getting X amount and it didn't materialize. And that happens.
Okay, but if the government were to wipe out the debt and you started fresh, could the NCC make its own financial operations viable? And what would viable mean? Would it mean that you would break even, that you say you'll not overspend the money allocated?
No.
Would it mean that you will end up with a smaller shortfall? That's to say a smaller debt? Or would it mean that you would make a profit?
If we got an adequate amount of money, if you wrote off the debts, right? If all the debt was wiped off, and you got an adequate amount of money to run Carnival the way that you envisage Carnival is supposed to be run, all things cultural are not profit returning. Culture is like that. There are things in culture that you have to expend money that would never come back to you. There's an intangibility in doing that. And those intangibilities sometimes is worth more than the tangible in terms of the monetary return that you're going to get. But to answer your question in short, if we had sufficient money to do it, we would be carrying a less debt. And of course, in some cases, we would make some profit because we'll be able to invest in certain things that would, as we attempted to do this year, some of the floundering, private as may be, it is culturally significant to Trinidad and Tobago. And the NCC's job, as our mandate say, is to make sure that we have a viable and a carnival, to make sure that we do all the marketing and everything that has to do with Carnival. So we did invest in some private thing. Not all of it would materialize with a profit at the same time. But yes, if we had enough money to invest in these things, we would make some kind of money.
What would be enough money on a debt-free portfolio?
Well, let me just explain something. Let me explain something. We behind the 8 ball in Trinidad and Tobago, like I would always say, we start off with a deficit in terms of monetary allocation, and I'll tell you what I mean by that. Most things that people have to pay for is done in foreign currency. What we are spending in Trinidad and Tobago, like we would be getting $140 million to run Trinidad and Tobago's Carnival. Woefully inadequate in terms of running a proper carnival. Because when you think about the exchange on $140 million to run our carnival, if you really go to advertise your carnival, like let's take for instance when I went to New York to look at to publicize our carnival, just to get your carnival in Times Square, which is where you want it because you want to see people. That is just to get it up there for like a month, it's going to cost like $50,000 US. If you want to get it on the trains and stuff, it's going to cost you a next 25 or 30,000. And this is for like a 2-week period or 3-week period. But at the same time, because it's Trinidad and Tobago money we are spending, which is about 6 to 1 or 7 to 1 or the other dollar. But when you look at, I have to look at Barbados or Jamaica. When you look at Barbados or you look at Jamaica, when you go to the Times Square, you would see Barbados advertising their carnival there. When you go to Barclays Center, you would see Barbados and Jamaica advertising. They will see nothing about Trinidad and Tobago Carnival. It's because the money that we get in cannot afford to pay for it. You understand? And maybe we don't place enough emphasis on Carnival bringing a certain kind of return to us.
Okay. I'll ask one final question and then I'll pass on to my colleagues. Do you have an idea based on any research that is available to you?
Well, yes, we have done.
Of how much Carnival brings into the economy?
Over the years, we have had varied amounts, which is a research that I did. When I was a minister of government, I had a research done.
Yes.
It was done by Dr. Nurse did one at one point in time.
Yes.
Then we had Vanus James from Tobago do another one when I was minister. And it varied from 600 million during the Carnival period to $1 billion. And it is varied. And those are only the tangibilities of it. The intangibles are much, 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 much more than that. Much more. Because when people get to know about your country and they come to your country, that is where you get your money. So then when you have people who from Trinidad and Tobago who become a star, like Barbados have, well, we have one too, we have Nicki Minaj, but I'm just trying to say we have never utilized her service, while Barbados utilized Rihanna all the time. We don't see our Carnival as a product that can bring things to our country. So we don't place enough emphasis on it. But I'm saying to you that if we do that and look at the spend, then we can make much more than that. But I have no doubt that Carnival brings in that kind of money.
Okay, I'll move on to Ms. Webster Roy, who wants to follow up on that question.
Sure.
Hi, thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Peters, you just mentioned other Caribbean islands using their locals who have gone away and succeeded in the international scale to promote the Carnival. What would have the NCC done to create strategic alliances to help to promote our Carnival? You noted that funding is an issue and it sort of hinders the ability to strategically roll out a marketing and promotion plan for the Carnival product. What would have been done to utilize our stars, our resources away, or even set up strategic alliances with different countries or different personalities to help to promote the festival?
I am so happy you asked me that question because I'm happy to answer it. I just want to tell you something. When I was a minister of government, right, and Nicki Minaj was at the height of her career and publicity, being from Trinidad, I told them to let us use Nicki Minaj as an ambassador to Trinidad and Tobago's culture, that we can, you're talking about alliances, to form these alliances, and other people that I know away. And you know what was the answer to me? Nicki Minaj has cost too much. That's what they tell me. They tell me Nicki Minaj has cost too much, so they can't use no ambassador like that. But I don't think anybody could cost more than Rihanna. And that's their culture, that's what they do. But that has nothing to do with what the promotion they would bring to your country. And I'm saying that how can you form alliances with anybody to do anything when you have a mindset like that in the country? You have a mindset that these people are not going to be beneficial to us. And if they're going to charge you $10,000 US to come here to do something for you, or you have to pay them that a month, $10,000 you're going to pay them. $10,000 is 80,000 Trinidad and Tobago dollars. How could you pay them that? But at the same time, these people make $50,000 US a night. So if you go in and pay them, that is nothing. The thing about it, it boils down to finance and how much you are willing to spend to create the product that you want. It's as simple as that.
Senator Obika.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Thank you very much, Mr. Winston Gypsy Peters. The question I have, and I recognize and respect as an economist, Keith Nurse and Vanus James, and I heard the $1 billion figure bandied about, but what percent of that, or what dollar value does NCC actually get? You know, what is your income apart from government subvention?
Well, I don't know that if the NCC looks for an income from that, because that is a figure that redounds to the benefit of the country. In general, in a general way, it goes back to the exchequer, and it doesn't redound to the NCC. But if you're asking for specifics in terms of what return the NCC have, the NCC has returns on some of the things that it does, and like I said, there are things that we do that has absolutely no return. And I think this year, we have made a concerted effort in terms of the investment that we are making with a view of bringing back some income to the NCC. And I think that, with all due respect, it's the first time that it was really done in that way to try to bring back some income. No, how well we did is we are still calculating what has been done.
No, I appreciate your response, but I understand that what the economists would have prepared would include monies going to the hoteliers,
yes,
which could be 20 million during the season,
yes,
revenue generated from Carib and associated brands and so on, and Caribbean Airlines as well.
Yes.
But what I really want specifically, I don't know if the finance person can help, is just what is because we need to know what is the baseline, where we at. We need to, even if it is bad, we need to know how bad it is. What exactly does NCC generate in terms of dollar value, in terms of income,
sure,
on an annual basis, on average?
I'll pass that on to the CEO.
Thank you, Chair. Currently, it's about $5 million in earned revenue from rentals of like the VIP lounge and the grandstand and the Savannah and North Park, etc., and about an additional $2 million in sponsorship, 1 point something million in sponsorship. That's about the baseline revenue.
Thanks for the question. Thanks for the response. I understood that there were some events that NCC partnered with event promoters this year, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. The long-running International Soca Monarch and Chutney Soca Monarch, and the children's event, I think is Nikki Crosby's event, Nikki Land. I don't know if there were other events. Could the Commission give us a breakdown as to what revenue or loss, because it's good to have a true picture, was generated from these events, and in the events where there was income surplus generated, profits generated, what is the potential of working with these organizations in the future, even if there's a loss generated, if you envisage a profit to be made in the future years?
Yes, we did. In the NCC did invest this year. Like I said, I alluded to it in an earlier answer when I spoke about our association with some of the floundering events that are significant to our country that we cannot afford to lose, and maybe because of the promotion of it was insufficient from the private people. So we did in fact take a good look at the Soca Monarch, where we invested some $6 million, and we did in fact look at the Chutney Soca Monarch. Both events have a lot of significance to Trinidad and Tobago, where we invested the next $4 million. So far, we didn't. Our intention was to invest more to make sure that it was built back up to what it used to be, because as you know, that Soca Monarch is one of the biggest product that we have on the cultural landscape. So much so that it is emulated in every part of the world now that has a carnival. They want a Soca Monarch, and we cannot allow Soca Monarch in Trinidad and Tobago to die. And so we invested in it. In terms of the return from it, we are now looking at that. We are now getting all we are now calculating what was done and what kind of return we have on both events. But we do believe that these are events that, if given the right amount of input, can be successful and will be successful, because they are successful events that don't have the right amount of input any longer, any financial input any longer, to make them what they're supposed to be.
So then, could I ask, of course, you know, you would need to get the actual figure, but
yes,
could I ask if the return is substantial, whether it is a significant percentage of the monies invested?
Well, let me put it this way, okay? Any business that you invest in, you do not expect to get an immediate return, especially if it's something that you have to develop. Yeah, and Soca Monarch is something that went way, way down, and we are now developing it back to a point where it is going to become viable, but it's going to need some input for about 2 years or 3 years. Just like the Chutney Soca Monarch, it's the same thing. These products were allowed to flounder because they don't have the financial input, and the kind of sponsorship that they used to get, they can't get it anymore. That can only come from entities like the NCC.
Right, yeah. So I don't understand if I'm browbeaten, because I carried a bucket of Soca Monarch already when Swappy sing bucket. You know what?
All right,
but so I understand that. Send 5 cents, 10 cents, dollars. That's what I grew up on. You understand? And I know the Soca train is yours, but the issue I really want to raise is separate from that. In other parts of the world, we have Trinidad and Tobago style carnivals.
Yes.
The NCBA has been instrumental in forming some of these carnivals. They control the patent in some. One carnival comes to mind, which is the Calabar Carnival, which is in southeastern Nigeria, which attracts 2 million visitors every year. It's Africa's biggest street festival. It probably is the biggest carnival in the world in terms of visitors. I'm not sure what the numbers are for Rio. Rio could probably be eclipsing that. But it's definitely bigger than any other Trinidad patterned carnival in the world. NCBA was involved in the running of that carnival. What is the potential of looking at that carnival? And the other question is, why is NCBA no longer involved in NCC, given this new entity, TTBA? So those are two questions. I know the other one is a little more political, but I want to understand what is the reason for moving away from NCBA to TTBA, given the track record of NCBA? And what is the potential of dealing with these carnivals that are begging for Trinidad and Tobago content? And I'll just give a simple story. One of the bands that went there about 3 or 4 years ago, ignore the time frame, because we think in political time frames. One of the bands went there, sponsored by Nigerian businessmen. The least paid player in a steel band got $5,000 US for 3 weeks' work. All right, doesn't sound like much for a frontline singer, but for an instrumentalist, you can imagine that is a significant return. So what is the potential of dealing with these carnivals, and what is the role of NCBA now, given that TTBA is involved?
Well, which one of the questions I should answer first? Let me answer why NCBA is no longer there. It's the same reason why the PNM is in power and the UNC is in opposition, because they had an election, and during the election, or there's a transition, and because of those transition, they choose one entity over the other, and that entity now sits on the board. So that entity has taken over, and they are the ones who are making the decision for the mass fraternity, and that's the reason why they are there.
Just this one, just to ask, so then who controls the patent for these foreign carnivals that NCBA claims they have? Is it that it's transferred to TTBA now?
That's a question better put to the NCBA and the TTCBA, because the NCC does not get into these people's private business. That's their private business, and we have nothing to do with it. They can deal with that on their own. We have nothing to do with that.
And the second question is the Nigerian carnival.
Well, the second question is that the NCC's mandate is to take part in any entity that we believe is viable to Trinidad and Tobago's carnival. And if we continue to see that Calabar Carnival as something that we should continue to be associated with, then we would do exactly that. As it stands here right now, we are affiliated virtually with all carnivals, and including them, because we had a delegate from there, a delegation from there who came to the NCC and had some conversations with me and my board to deal with that carnival and to even expand it. So we are working with any carnival or every part of the world, because at the end of the day, Trinidad is the mecca of carnival, because we have given the world that kind of carnival. And fortunately enough for us still, a lot of them still look up to us. But if we continue not having a significant input in doing what we have to do and to create a better product that is our carnival, unfortunately, we are going to be losing that.
MP Mitchell.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There is no doubt that Carnival is integral to the culture and the people of Trinidad and Tobago, and there's no doubt as to its importance. I just want to follow up on a question just posed about the Soca Monarch. And I understand from your answer that you're saying that the Soca Monarch is too important to die. Chutney Soca Monarch is too important to die, and these events would have gone down over the years. But I grew up going to fetes called Colors and Watercolors and Wet Fete and Brass, I think I even went to. Isn't it the opinion of the NCC that the market should be allowed to determine what fetes live and what fetes survive? Because if sponsorship has been going down, the market has determined that these fetes are no longer viable, or have outlived, or have gotten to the end of their product life, so to speak. Shouldn't the market determine that?
Well, let me answer your question this way, okay? You are equating an event with something that is totally different. Soca Monarch is not a fete. Chutney Soca Monarch is not a fete. Chutney Soca Monarch is an institution, like indeed Soca Monarch is. It's an institution that was created for a different kind of cultural value. This has spawned people like Marshall Montano, Kess, and all the others that you're seeing showing Winchester. Fete don't do that. Fete, the reason why Fete come about is because of these people. Because these people are people who have brought themselves up to a certain standard that people want them to perform all over the world. And had it been for Chutney Soca, you wouldn't have Ravi B and them performing all over the world and single-handedly promoting Trinidad and Tobago. You wouldn't have Marshall Montano in Hollywood. You wouldn't have Marshall Montano as a cheerleader for Hollywood's Carnival. It's because of Soca Monarch and because of Chutney Monarch. So these are much more significant than watercolor fete or whatever color fete you want to call it. These are just fete. Yep. Soca Monarch and thing is not a fete, it's an institution.
Mr. Chairman, allow me to just disagree with you a little, because
well, you can.
These events are private promotions done by private individuals, done with a view of profit in mind. They have always been that way. So, I mean, whether it's a fete is an event, or a festival, should it not be that the market determine?
Well, the market...
Because let me just say that something else can come in, something else can replace it that is viable. For example, a Marshall Monday. You don't invest in Marshall Monday, do you?
We don't, because we have no reason to, but other people do.
Right. Sponsorship. They're sponsored.
Yes.
NCC is a state organization.
But
so would it not, don't you expect that it would be replaced by something where that vacuum is created?
Listen, I want to say to you, right, that Soca Monarch created Marshall Monday. Hadn't it been for Soca Monarch, you may have never had a Marshall Monday. Soca Monarch created that. Marshall Monday did not create Soca Monarch. Soca Monarch has spawned these things. And those are the kind of thinking that keeps back our own things. Because Soca Monarch, it is not just an event. Soca Monarch is an institution that creates artists for the world. This year, I want to tell you something. This year we had somebody from Grenada winning the Soca Monarch. You know what that is going to do for us next year? It's going to do the kind of thing like what Bourgeois is doing right now for Trinidad and Tobago. I am told by the promoters of Bourgeois' concert that they already sold 2,000 foreign tickets to come to Trinidad and Tobago. Because that event is created in a certain way that it brings people to the country. It's the same thing that Soca Monarch will do, like Marshall Monday is doing as well, but it has to be brought back up to a certain standard, and it's one of the premier event in our carnival that we see at the NCC as a product that should not be allowed to die, because every other place that has a carnival, they are now emulating it. They have a Soca Monarch in just about every carnival that they have now, and if it wasn't a significant event, they weren't going to have it.
Chairman, I agree with you with Bourgeois, but I am unaware that any state organization is sponsoring or investing into Bourgeois. But let me just move on. I'll move on to another matter of the financial challenges that the finance officer would have alluded to. And I think the figure quoted was 44 million in 2019 that you have recorded on your books as debt. 34 million in 2018. And the reason that you gave would have been timeliness of payment. The bureaucracy that we all know that is involved in any government spend. But isn't another reason, because I have before me here at Appendix 11, National Carnival Commission Major Projects 2017. Wouldn't another reason for this debt that is carried over from year to year, the variances from the budgeted cost and actual cost? Because for 2017, I have here a variance of $10 million in $10,731,093 in variances. That is actual cost spend over what was initially budgeted. That must form a significant reason for your debt carried over.
That was 2015, you said?
Yeah, I mean, the finance officer could, 2017.
Okay, so he's going to answer that.
Appendix 11.
What is this?
Appendix 11, 2017.
Yeah.
Major project.
Project description, which are really just infrastructural projects that you have that seem to reoccur year over year.
Well, you will always have that reoccurring thing because, and while you will find it going up every year, it's because every year things raise. I guess
But there's a budgeted cost, and I assume that the budget cost would have been on last year's spend, estimates, quotations, etc. But then there's an actual cost and a variance of $10.7 million, essentially. So to the finance officer, this must form a significant explanation as to why you have this debt burden in 2018 and 2019. Am I correct?
Yes, you're correct.
So that brings into question why. Is it a matter of your procurement practices? Is it a failure to get accurate estimates, to budget in the first place? Is it a failure to achieve value for money through open or a greater selective tendering process? Why?
If I might, all the actual costs are actually the result of open tendering done for all of the provision of all of these services. So intuitively, one could conclude that they're the best costs available on the market because it's open tendering for all of them.
Okay, not so much intuitively is according to your tendering process, because in tendering processes, you would have, for example, in other infrastructural type, you would have an engineer's estimate, and based on your engineer's estimate, the tenders you receive, you would award something based on your engineer's estimate as a guide. So what is the difference between your budgeted costs and your actual costs? What is the reason for the variance? Oh, so is it that your budgeted costs, the budgeting process is flawed or is in need of improvement? Your budgeting process?
I would agree that the budgeting process could be improved. I would definitely agree with that. And the point I was trying to make before, though, was that in spite of an engineer's estimate, when you go out to public tender, if the engineer's estimate says 1 million, but the suppliers, the lowest one is 2 million, the best you can do is negotiate with him, and which, incidentally, the NCC does on a continuous basis.
Yes.
You know, when we go out to tender and we call in the people and we say, listen, that is too high, we can't make that. We beg, essentially. But, and they have been gracious to a large extent, but they also know that there's a limited number of people and organizations that provide these things. So it's a supplier's market more so.
Is there an opportunity, for example, because you would have budgeted, so there is a ceiling, Parliament votes an allocation to the NCC, which, by the way, is more than I have calculated 15 other ministries and departments. So Parliament votes this. There is a ceiling. Is there an opportunity to reduce your scope of works to meet what the market is prepared to charge?
Like the CEO said, yes, there's an opportunity to do it, but you have to understand what Carnival is and how Carnival is. Carnival is not a stoic thing at all. Carnival is not a stoic thing with a certain amount of providers on the market that has to provide you what you want to do if you want to have an effective and efficient Carnival. So, yes, something may cost a certain amount of money and you have a ceiling, but if you have to have it in order for you to do what you have to do, what do you say? We're not going to do it and we're not going to spend that money? You can't say that. Unlike certain things, I mean, we have buildings that people do and you have it there and it's like one building that's going to be doing a certain time frame and you have cost overrun. Well, we do have cost overrun in these things because when you budget for something sometime, but by the time you get it on the market, like take for instance, you might want to, you know, I might get a kind of funny way when I say these things, you know. Some of the things that we use in Trinidad are shabby-looking things for Carnival, you know. If I have my way, Trinidad Carnival will have the best things for Carnival. Some of them things that we have to use, they're like some of them toilets I see we putting on the side of the road. For Trinidad and Tobago Carnival, if I had my way in the land of Carnival, in the home of Carnival, we should spend more money to have better-looking things. So because these people might have some of these things, and a man say, okay, this toilet that we have here is going to cost $1. But when you look at the toilet that the man going to put there for you for $1, you might as well, and then he said, no, I have this one here for $5, but this is what you budget for. But when you watch the $5 toilet, this is what you really want. And because of the nature of Carnival and how it has to be, remember it's people you invite into your country. So it's going to cost more and you will look for the one that looks better. And that is what could cause these cost overrun. Carnival is almost spontaneous in a lot of ways.
Yeah. And one final question. Yes, there may be cost overruns. In the heat of the moment, you may make a decision to order 25 instead of 20 of a particular item. What has the NCC been doing in trying to come up with a plan to meet this deficit by improving your income position?
Well, that's exactly what we spoke about earlier, about the Soca Monarch and the other things that we have invested in. We are trying to make investments in these products that we see has the potential to have a financial return. So we are investing in these projects. Over time, the return is going to come, but it's not going to come at the same time you invest it because of the project that you're building. So these are the things, like take for instance, this year we created something for Carnival Monday night. That has absolutely nothing. Carnival Monday night, we have Carnival in this country for 2 days, and Carnival Monday night is a dead night. The Savannah is like a morgue. So we created something called
San Fernando is lively though.
Well, you're from San Fernando, I guess you're putting things in place down there. And you see, and all you complain that we ain't give all enough money, and now we're boasting about how good it was. All right, so that's all right. We deal with that. We live with that. But let me say to you that we are investing in these things. Over time, it is going to bring back a profit. Over time, it's going to bring back a monetary profit that we would then be able to do the things that we have to do. Like I said, we bring Carnival Monday night, we put something in place called Brass Bacchanal. When everybody, against all odds, everybody was saying, oh, you have something Carnival Monday night, but at the end of the day, this too is going to become a staple in Carnival. Carnival Monday night Brass Bacchanal, because we're going to make it bigger next year. And in order to make it bigger, how do you make something bigger and make it better? If we spend $1 million on it this year and you see that it's doing this and it has the potential, but in order to achieve that potential, it's going to cost $3 million. So why not spend the $3 million and make it better? You're going to continue to spend $1 million and say, it has the potential, you know. It has the potential, you know. You see the potential, you see what it's going to do. It's going to cost more. So we're going to spend it more and try to make more and make it bigger. And that's how it works. That's no other way.
All right. So what you're saying is that it's a strategy position of the board to invest in these?
Invest in a lot of things that will bring back, it may not bring back, like I said, immediate profit. It would not bring back immediate profit because you can't expect that.
But
as
what
a
about,
businessman, you know that.
Are there any opportunities for licensing souvenirs and that sort of thing?
We have those opportunities, and I'm happy that you asked that, because as we speak right now, we are in the process of transforming some space up in the savannah with the good insistence of our minister to ensure that we have a souvenir shop. I don't understand why it never happened before. Because we have all these carnival artifacts that we can miniature and sell them. We have boats. We just boast about how much more people we have coming here on the cruise ships. What have we benefited from it? The NCC is responsible for Carnival. What have we benefited? Nothing. The truth about it, all they do is they watch the place we have and go back on the boat and eat their food and do whatever they have to do.
And they are desperate to spend their money.
But they are desperate to spend it, but what are you going to be spending it on? And this is our mandate. And these are the things that we have to do. But again, I'm saying to you, and excuse me if I say that neither a wise man nor a fool could work without the tools. And the tool in this case to achieve all these things is something called money. And what we are spending is Trinidad and Tobago money. And Trinidad and Tobago money is significantly less than the monies that it would take to actually do the things that we have to do. It's as simple as that.
All right. Thank you very much. I want to maybe shift the focus a little bit. The Carnival is a big and all-encompassing thing, and it is the central and most important celebration in the life of the people of Trinidad and Tobago. What aspects of Carnival does the NCC control and are responsible for? And what are the aspects outside of your jurisdiction? Could you explain that so that the ordinary citizen would understand?
Based on our mandate, we are responsible for every aspect of Carnival, supposedly in Trinidad and Tobago, but I'm saying to you that is in Trinidad, because we have very little input in the Tobago Carnival aspect.
That is handled by House of Assembly?
It is handled by House of Assembly, and we get responsibility for it anyway. Anything that goes wrong, we get the blame. They blame us for it. No, that's the truth. They say that the NCC didn't do that, and the NCC, because people don't understand how it works. And I think these are something where we have to educate them a little more.
You get an opportunity to clarify. So
well, I'm clarifying it. We are responsible, based on our mandate, for everything Carnival in Trinidad and Tobago. And we try to live up to that mandate, to take part and to do everything in all the things that we have to do. Another thing that I want to get across is that the monies that we get for Carnival is not only spent in playing mass and promoting this and promoting that, it's spent in creating jobs. For Carnival, some of the most short-term jobs are created all over Trinidad and Tobago. And who pays for it? The NCC. It comes out of the same money that you're giving the NCC to promote Carnival. So it's a lot of things that are done, but we are responsible for every single aspect of Carnival in Trinidad and Tobago based on our mandate.
All right. Now, I want to ask this pointed question. You talked about the areas in which you can invest and over time get a return.
Yes.
Two of those were Suka Monarch and Chutney Monarch. But what are the areas, other areas in Carnival existing as it is now, from which the NCC can get a return on investment at the present time?
Well, the NCC is not going to get a return on it at the present time. The NCC can promote it in a way that the country is going to get a benefit. Let's take, for instance, we have something called Borrow Day in Point Fontaine.
Yeah.
The NCC needs to invest in Borrow Day right this minute as I speak. And what we are going to get from that is we are going to get the artisans of Carnival participating in it. But the benefit of it, the intangible benefit of it will redound to the government of Trinidad and Tobago and to the coffers of Trinidad and Tobago. So the NCC as an entity would not get the monies from it, But when you look at it and you calculate it, the country is going to get the money. And the same entity that you're talking about, Caribbean Airline, and the hotels, and all the bars and stuff that you have in Point Fontaine, and all the other things, they are going to benefit from it. But at the end of the day, it is NCC's responsibility to look at wherever we can promote Carnival in our country that would redound to the benefit of the country as a whole. This is I don't know, it's not an anomaly in the system, but we are not a private promoter where at the end of the day you're going to say that, you know, the promoter make X amount of money. But at the end of the day, what we can say is based on the events that we have taken part in and promoted, the country benefits from it tremendously. Whether they benefit from it socially or they benefit from it financially, but there is a benefit, there are tangible and intangible benefits, and we are the ones who have the responsibility to do that. And that is what we do. But to say that if we do it, we have no way of getting the benefit directly unless we promote the event. Yes, like when we promoted the Bacchanal Day, the Brass Bacchanal, we promoted that. That's an NCC promotion. Like when we promote the Marche Gras, that's an NCC promotion. So you find money would come back directly to the NCC there.
Okay, but I mean, when a tourist come and you have the multiplier effect of many tourists.
Yeah.
I mean, the airline benefits, taxi benefits, they buy stuff and so on. And we understand the multiplier effect of that, although NCC doesn't get a cent out of that.
Right.
But there are other entities that make private money. Every band, every carnival band, the objective there is to run that band profitably so that you make a profit. And there are other things like that. I mean, when you run a fete, you try to make a profit out of that, for instance. So there are lots of things in Carnival, in mass, in the associated events of Carnival that actually make money. Can NCC, in its role as the main promoter of the largest cultural event of Trinidad and Tobago, find a way of determining revenue streams that can make it financially sustainable and viable?
Yes, we can. But in order to do that, we would have to look at the entities that can bring that kind of money to us. And then again, we will have to turn to the exchequer to say, listen, we need a next $50 million in order to promote X, Y, and Z, and promote it this time so that we can make money. But with the monies that are given to us, we can't. There's no way to use it externally. Like I said, it's not even given because we don't get all. And at the end of the day, we owe everybody but the man on the Quaker Oats box. So there is no way that we can go ahead and utilize it to promote something else, which we like to do, by the way. We would love to do that, but until what we have invested in start to show a return significantly enough that we can utilize from that to do other things, we'll have to go and beg for the money from the government to do it.
Oh, well, I want to kind of summarize my understanding of something, because I think it's important for the public to understand. As it is now, you have a debt which is about $74 million, which, if liquidated, could give you an immense amount of freedom. That is what you are saying.
Yes.
Right now, you are carving out, you are hamstrung by the debt to the extent that it limits your freedom to negotiate, to procure, things like that. So that the wiping out of the debt will bring you your freedom in that regard. At the same time, you are investing in new products which you think will bring a return.
Yes.
Thirdly, the best that you can do is really to manage the money so that you operate within the budget that is allocated for you.
Yes.
And the only additional sources of revenue that you can bring in to give you financial viability are things that you invest in for a return.
Yes.
All right? To get involved in anything else in which you are directly involved, it means, in addition, more money from the state.
It would mean that, yes.
All right. I just wanted to clear that because I think what it says to us is that the mandate of NCC and the money allocated to NCC, given in a context in which this becomes an annual subvention, the best that we can hope for from it is for them to spend only the money that has been allocated and not more, and for them to generate revenue from investments that they make.
Yes.
Right? That's the best that we can do
Mr. Chairman.
with NCC.
Yes.
Okay.
But Mr. Chairman, I want to just say something. And I don't want us to leave here with the public believing that when they say that we get $144 million,
that you actually
and
get
we
it.
owe $70 million, that we actually get 144. This is a carryover debt from many years. It's like living for the city. You live today on this paycheck to pay the debt that you owe from the last one. And so we keep on going. So this debt is accumulative. It has nothing to do with owing all of that from this year. And I'm saying to you that when they say that you are going to have $144 million, it means that anybody, if that is going to be your allocation, then you are going to try to spend $144 million. But at the end of the day, you spend $144 million and you really only get $90 million.
Yeah.
So where does that
So
go?
you end up with a
so
deficit.
then next year, when you get when they say you get the next $144 million, the first thing that you have to take out of that is the $35 million or whatever you were short of there.
So do you feel that if the debt were wiped out and you were allocated $150 million, that you could run Carnival within that budget and do it properly?
Well, we are running it right now with that. We are running it right now with less than that and a promise. Because we run it with the money that we actually get and a promise of the balance that we have to get, which would run into next year and the year after and the year after. So yes, the short answer to that is yes. If we get that, if all the debts were wiped out and we get that kind of money, we'll be able to do much more with it. We'll be able to do things that we're supposed to do. But that is only if we get it. And we know that given the monetary constraint now, that is wishful thinking. We're never going to get it. It never happened when we had hundreds of millions of dollars in surplus, and I don't think that is ever going to happen when we have hundreds of millions of dollars in deficit. So I am saying, that, Mr. Chairman, that what the NCC has to do is to try to balance ourselves with the monies that we have here, continue to try to invest in certain things that would bring money back to the NCC directly. And that is the way that we would be able to have some little money that we will be able to pay off some of our debts at least during the course of the year and not depend on the government.
All right. Now, we started, I'm going to pass on to my colleagues now, but we started by talking about the accounts that had not gone to the Auditor General and which remain for the Auditor General to address. And there were several years. Dating back, I think, to 2009. You also have a situation in which you have no internal auditor. And you have a situation in which you have a consultant that actually helps you to prepare your documents to go to the auditor. Don't you think that one of the things you could start with, I mean, if you want to make this thing financially viable, is to try to clean up that particular time, which is to say not only get the accounts ready for auditing, examination by the Auditor General, but to have an internal auditing capability, need not be a large one, but a competent one inside the NCC?
If I may, Chairman, within the next 2 months, an internal auditor would be hired by the NCC.
Okay.
And just to clear up a couple of other things, the status right now is that up to 2008, the Auditor General, up to 2008 financials have been audited by the Auditor General.
I'm aware.
2009 is just the audit is being finalized. 2010 to 2012, they have already been submitted to the Auditor General. 2013 to 2015 have already been completed by the NCC. But there's a bit of a conundrum there in that the current board was not there during 2013 to 2015.
What about some of the management, though? Don't you have management people who carry over?
Yes, sir. But in fact, right now, no, not for 2013 to 2015. Okay. But the financial statement.
So is that how the NCC operates, which is that when you have a change of administration, you just clean out?
No, sir. No, sir.
All right.
There has been, unfortunately, a high turnover of staff, particularly high-ranking staff, but it hasn't been politically generated.
All right. So it's just attrition.
That is the unfortunate reality.
Yeah, okay.
The challenge with the 2013 to 2015 is that the current board wasn't there. So we're trying to find a mechanism with the Auditor General where proper sign-off can happen.
Be effective.
Yes.
Okay.
2016 to 18, these have been prepared, but this board is thinking at a slightly higher level in that there are issues, there are qualified audits. Previous years are qualified audits, and they will continue because there are some unexplained balances going forward. This board wants to stop that and is discussing with the Auditor General, wishes to discuss with the Auditor General, at what point can we nail the past down and start moving forward so that when we present audited financial statements, they truly represent the performance of the organization in those years, and not just you'll be seeing qualified audit because of what was done or not done in years prior to the existence of this board. So we expect to have a resolution of that within this current year.
All right.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr.
Go
Chairman.
ahead, go ahead.
I wanted to ask about SWOT analysis, and I wanted to ask Mr. Lucas in terms of the organization itself, and then Mr. Peters in terms of the Carnival product. Was a SWOT analysis done for the NCC?
In the context of its just subsided strategic plan, yes, but that strategic plan ended last year. So we are going to do the new strategic plan starting, this is May. From May, we start the process, the new strategic planning process.
So from the last strategic plan, you would have identified opportunities, right?
I imagine it would have.
Were those opportunities explored and exploited?
Well, not having been there, unfortunately, but because of what has emerged in our early preparation for the new strategic exercise, it is clear that not all that could have been done was done, and we recognize that, and we want to correct that with some urgency.
Peters, in terms of our Carnival product, the same question applies. Was a SWOT analysis done of our product, and what were some of the opportunities identified, and what measures or steps have been taken to ensure that the opportunities are indeed explored and exploited?
Well, as you would appreciate, I wasn't there before. We are now here, and the same thing goes for what the CEO said. We are now doing that. We are now working on it to see where we go, where we went, where we go since my tenure.
So let me take it out from you being on being the chair of the board now, but you being a practitioner, a professional in the whole Carnival arena. What are some of the opportunities that you could identify for our product? Having
a separate Tobago Carnival in the month of maybe October, when we'll make it the last carnival in the circuit, and Tobago's carnival will bring in a lot of benefit to Trinidad and Tobago, because it will be one of the few carnivals that we have an opportunity to plan. And the NCC will work along with whomever in the Tobago House of Assembly to work with this product that is Tobago's Carnival, or Tobago's, whatever you want to call it. And it would redound to the benefit of Trinidad and Tobago. Because what we would have then, we would have what is called reverse tourism. Instead of the few people leaving Tobago, a lot of people leaving Tobago to come to Trinidad for Carnival, and none from Trinidad going to Tobago. What we would have when Tobago have a standalone Carnival is that we would have all the people from Trinidad, the artisan, the participant, the what have you, going to Tobago for Carnival. We advertise Tobago Carnival as a standalone Carnival when they have no other Carnival to compete with, because all will be finished by then. And that is one of the plans that we have to make sure that our Carnival go forward. And that is one of the things that we want to do.
And I wanted to ask about that. I remember, I think it might have been during your tenure as minister, they would have tried the Tobago Fest.
Yes.
And that would have, they would have stopped the Tobago Fest.
Well, no, it wasn't tried during my...
Was in your time? Okay,
no, no.
well, sorry.
Well, it might have been during, because I am advocating for this since in the days of a man named Richard Afong, when he was the president of the NCBA. So since then, I'm advocating for this. I've been an advocate of a separate Tobago's Carnival, because that's how much I know about Carnival, and I can see it. I can look at it and see what's going to happen. So that was done, but it was not done in the right way. You see, these things need a NCC intervention, specific NCC intervention. Like, let's take, for instance, we say, okay, Tobago Carnival is going to cost $100 million to promote, to put together, to put all the aspects of a carnival that we need in place. So we say that we're going to have Tobago Carnival from next year or the next 2 years. So now we sit down and we plan. We know we have $100 million to put into it. And we put all the things that we have to put into it, including the external advertisement for Tobago Carnival. And that is the kind of thing. But you see, that wasn't done with Tobago Fest. Tobago Fest is some people get together and say, we have a Tobago Fest. Oh, you could have the same Tobago Fest, but you could have the best product in the world and nobody know about it. Your product is not going to sell. And you could have the worst product in the world and hype it in a certain way, and you could sell it. Banham and Bailey said that. You could sell, snow to an Eskimo, if you promote it in the right way and tell them that this is the best snow and this snow will keep you colder than everywhere else. So it is as simple as that. And that is what one of my plans are.
Apart from the Tobago Carnival being identified as an opportunity to help to improve our carnival product and to ensure we get a lot of foreign and regional participation, what other opportunities were identified, that you could identify from your experience?
Like I told you about putting the Soca Moroccan stuff together, but you don't want me to, you already said that. So what I'm saying is that these are things that we have to sit down and think about, like how we thought about having the thing on Carnival Monday night. These are things that we have to think about as we go along. So in our brainstorming and stuff like that, and the experience and looking at what happened going forward from here, we're going to look at other products to put inside the deal. Like I said, one of the things that we're thinking about is the Point Fontaine Carnival. And if we could put that together, that too is going to bring about a whole lot of, not as much as Tobago right now, because it's already in Trinidad, and Tobago has a whole lot of different things that's going to go with its carnival, the sea, the surf, the ambience, the all kind of things that's going to go with it. It's already a tourist destination. That's going to be just a big, big enhancement. But Point Fontaine, we have to work on things like that. So we are brainstorming, and we are going to work out some things as we go along. But to tell you what, right this minute, what we have, the short answer is that we have so much things going on in Trinidad Carnival right this minute that is almost saturated. You could only improve on what you have right now.
Mr. Lucas, I'm putting you on the spot based on you also being a practitioner in the arts and also a calypsonian. Have you identified any opportunities that will help to improve the product itself?
One of the greatest opportunities that we have is leveraging what we refer to as regional carnival. See traditional mass? Every other carnival in the world has bikini beads and the other bee thing. Every carnival has that. We have that too, and that's okay. No other carnival, I dare say, can put on a display of traditional mass like we can. If you can get 0.001% of the world population to become interested in traditional mass, you can't hold them on this island. So one of the things that this board is saying is, why are we fighting a battle that we can't win? Bikini and beads, they don't require much creativity. creativity is one of the things that we have an abundance of here. Fight the battle, you can win. We can create costumes. And within the traditional realm, that is where most of that creativity can happen. And even in the conventional realm, go where you could win and bring a few 100,000 people every year to share in your experience. That's where it's at. One of the things that we have done over the last couple of years is audience impact assessment for most of our big shows. And the results of those assessments are going to form part of the SWOT analysis for the upcoming strategic plan. I forgot to mention that just now. Thank you.
Before we proceed further, my colleagues have questions here, and we will make sure that they ask the questions before we go. But I wanted to ask Mr. Sinan, and you've heard the position of the chairman, the CEO. You've heard the permanent secretary's comments. Can I get a perspective from you on this matter of the audited accounts and what you would like to see and what you can do, given that one of the issues raised there is basically that they would like to put the past to rest and be able to move on in a much more reasonable context?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Okay, the last audit report issued was for 2007. References made to 2008 and then could be alluding to the management letters, which are not audit reports. The last AG report was for 2007. And that report was a disclaimer of an opinion. It was not a qualified report. It's a totally different issue.
2008?
2007 report. 5, 6, and 7, they were all disclaimers, meaning we didn't get enough information to base an opinion. We looked for the documents, we asked for them, we tried to get them, they were not produced. So the opinion was no opinion could be given. A qualified report would mean we got information, maybe 1 or 2 issues were awry, but that was not so. Nothing was provided of substance to give an opinion. And just by the way, I know we're moving forward, but a little bit about the past, some of the issues. The 2005 to 2011 statements were received in 2015. That is between 4 years and a decade late. The AG's office, we did our best to work with our clients. Yes, we audited, but we tried to work with all of our clients to help them build their documents, recommendations. The 2008 and 9 audits were finished. We are going to certify them soon. We have issued the management letters to which we have got no responses yet, but we're going ahead with the report. As I said before, the 2010 and 2010 to 2012 audits have to be planned. 13 and 15 is the issue with the signatories, for which the Auditor General will not do an audit unless we get signed financial statements. Somebody has to be responsible for them. As best practice as in auditing. 2016, 2018, we are still waiting. To move ahead, we would advise the NCC to look at the management letters, which are quite detailed in what we're looking for. And there are generic things that across the board that should be there. Basic things like a fixed asset register, not provided. Bank statements, bank reconciliation statements, the usual gamut of missing key documents. But what is peculiar to the NCC that we found, and the acting Madam Auditor General noted, was the price listing per tickets and the reconciliation statement of tickets printed and sold were not provided for any year, which is a major revenue earner. And peculiar to this organization, it's something that should not be taken lightly, again, for the national coffers, or even NCC itself. But based on our management letters and the advice we've given, we can move forward. Yes, we could have discussions, but our management letters are quite detailed in what we need, and the advice is given. During the audit, at the exit meeting, in the management letters, even the audit reports, they're quite clear. And we will work with them at their request. Thank you.
Are you able to comply with the requirements of the management letters that you have? What is the source of the delay?
Right. Chairman, according to my records, we received the last management letter in March. As the last one, the 2008 one. Yes, we are working on complying with the
All
requirements.
right, so you are addressing those?
Yes, sir.
All right. And what is the difficulty of signing off on existing audits that you need to send to the Auditor General?
Well, there has been some level of discomfort on the board. The interpretation of signing off, and signing off to some board members means that I stand by these, I can attest that these statements demonstrate and depict and record what happened during this time. And there's some concern that, okay, if I was not there during this time and I make this attestation, can I be held accountable if these things are not what they purport to be?
Yeah.
So that's the concern.
But isn't there normal continuity, notwithstanding change of boards or change of management for the institution itself?
That's why we're getting advice in it, and we expect that matter to be no longer a matter by next month.
All right, so you are trying to resolve the issue.
Most certainly,
to move it forward, because if there's an issue, even if you sign for it, the matter will be, at the end of the day, the particular issue that is being addressed. The Auditor General will address that.
And in fact, yes, Chairman, and in fact, the board is even considering a step further. And the Auditor General's Department alluded to the fact that a lot of the documentation has just not been available and so on.
Okay.
The board is actively considering bringing in additional accounting capability to dig as deeply as possible, so that we're even thinking of redoing, going back a couple of years and redoing financial statements based on the better, more and more accurate information that we expect we'll be able to find if we can just put the resources to it. And so that's the current situation.
Okay. Deputy Auditor General, would you like to say anything at this point?
No, Mr. Chairman, it's just that we will work with our clients to bring the accounts up to date for the national benefit, wherever we can help them.
Could I appeal to the chairman, please, and the permanent secretary to try and resolve this matter so that we end up with audited accounts up to 2018 as fast as is reasonably possible?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I would work as seriously as I can with my CEO and to have it done.
Thank you very much. Could I ask Mr. Mitchell?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. And I, for my part, I would like to commend this board and the management for getting the financial statements and your audited financials, at least up to 2012, as you have indicated. So I want to commend you for that. On the matter of the potential liability, perhaps in your constitution, there ought to be some clause that treats with indemnities to board directors for acts done. So, and if it's not there, I would suggest that, along with your corporate secretary, you treat with that matter. But that being said, and commendations being given, the person who is ultimately liable, and I'm looking at the financial regulations here, Madam PS, you are personally and pecuniarily responsible for these matters. And I'm certain that on the basis that no financial statements had been provided for quite some time, and I'm looking at the management letters and I'm looking at them and I'm seeing most of them have come in this month. You must have some sense of serious discomfort, because you can't say whether we've received value for money or whether fraud had taken place or any other criminal matters. What strategy have you devised to ensure that there is no repeat of this going forward?
Yes, ma'am, it is a matter of serious concern to the ministry. So coming out of the management letters, I've already written to CEO asking for that discussions be held in terms of devising the responses, and that the ministry be part of the process going forward. So the responses to the management letters and addressing whatever shortcomings and gaps have been identified in the management letters. It will be the approach we will be adopting going forward. We have been monitoring. We will have to strengthen our monitoring so that this doesn't happen again. And once the situation has been brought to a satisfactory stage, it will become a greater responsibility for the ministry to work with the NCC to ensure that not only are the accounts brought up to date, but all the deficiencies that have been identified are corrected. And as Chairman has already alluded to, having a clean slate going forward, not just in terms of debt, but in terms of their internal controls and balances.
All right. Let me move on to the Chairman. Chairman, you've repeatedly said that it boils down to finance. And for me, I'm thinking that you also mean that it boils down to financial models and financial proposals. When you spoke about whether or not we can hire Nicki Minaj, it shouldn't really boil down to whether she uses expletives or not. It should boil down to, what is the potential financial return to the country. So, and on that same score, I wonder if the NCC has done any research on other carnivals like Caribana and New York. What research on whether those carnivals are sustainable, the level of sustainability of those carnivals. So the question is, have you engaged consultants or otherwise to put forward some financial modeling on how we can get the NCC to be a sustainable organization and to put on a sustainable festival? I accept that there are intangible benefits and there is some public good here, but has any of that been done?
With all due respect, we have had Carnival in Trinidad and Tobago for over 100 years. Caribana is about 50 years old that we have created. Notting Hill Carnival is just about the same thing that we have created. Labor Day in New York is about the same thing that we have created. And I do not see any reason for us to look to anybody other than ourselves to figure out what we supposed to be doing. Because hadn't it been for us, they wouldn't be doing nothing that they're doing there. And I have been involved in Carnival for more than 50 years. And some of my colleagues here have been basically doing the same thing. And I'm saying to you that if we don't know what to do and how to turn our Carnival, then nobody will be. So I don't see a reason for us to have to do any study from any one of these places. These places call on us to do study for them to keep their Carnival and stuff, afloat. So I don't think that's necessary. And this is with all due respect.
But we're not talking about the quality of the product or what is being presented. We're talking about the financial sustainability.
Well, the financial sustainability comes by numbers. We can't compete with them in terms of numbers. People could only get to Trinidad by two means, either a plane or a boat. People could get to Canada by anything. You could get there by land, by bicycle, by skateboard, by anything you want. And so the same thing with Notting Hill, and so the same thing with most of the other carnivals outside of the Caribbean. And the ones in the Caribbean, the vehicle that they use to bring people to their carnival is something called money. And I'm saying to you that this is a study that we know. We already studied that. It's something that it's a life. I live that life. I know it. So there's there's nothing else that I could add to that, really, other than what I've said.
All right. Can you give us an update on the Carnival Institute of Trinidad and Tobago? I saw it. I don't know, is it under the NCC?
It is.
Yeah.
It most certainly is, but let me ask the CEO to do that.
Yes, the Carnival Institute is part of the NCC. It operates under the current directorship of Dr. Kim Johnson. I am not sure what kind of an update you require.
Right. I mean, I've seen in the Stallmeyer's Castle and many people have commented and have
Yes.
praised the Ministry
Involved
of
in that
Culture and
activity,
so on
yes.
about that showcasing there. Was the Carnival Institute involved in that?
Yes, most definitely.
Yeah.
And also, one of the major things that the Carnival Institute is involved in is building or archiving a lot of Carnival and Carnival-related works. And I'm not only talking about Parade of the Bands and things that the more pedestrian things that we're talking about, but, you know, interviews with icons and so on. We have reams. In fact, just recently, we had to update our IT infrastructure to be able to download all of the things that the Carnival Institute is truly committed to building historical data.
And just in the interest of time, is there an opportunity to monetize these archives?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Have they been?
Not yet, for several reasons, but going forward, our strategic plan will encompass ways to leverage Carnival Institute's work to the best of NCC's and the nation's benefit.
Because one of the items of feedback coming from our visitors is they want to experience, this is the home of Carnival, is the land of Carnival. They want to experience Carnival anytime they come here, whether it be in October or wherever, whether it be a virtual museum or some sort of Carnival village. I know I spoke to the chairman about that recently, but you know, we need to move towards monetizing and having an experience of Carnival available throughout the year. A comment?
Absolutely.
Trinidad and Tobago is lacking a permanent Carnival village, a permanent Carnival city, a permanent one where people can come year-round, when the Ministry of Tourism would encourage people to come to this country, and they would come for that reason. There are lots of things here in Carnival. We waste millions of dollars every year in thrown away costumes that can be kept, and we're not seeing the value in it. I mean, the NCC has a responsibility for Carnival, but we don't have the finances to do that kind of an infrastructure unless we become a promotional entity and promote things whole year and to build our own infrastructure. But we need that. If we have Trinidad is the home of Carnival, the land of Carnival, and there's nothing about Carnival that you could see in Trinidad and Tobago except you come here for Carnival days. That shouldn't be. This is the home of Carnival. We created that kind of Carnival. We have more things about Carnival in the Smithsonian Institute than we have in Trinidad and Tobago. Much more. You could find out more about Trinidad and Tobago Carnival in the Smithsonian Institute than you would find out in Trinidad and Tobago.
And again, it comes down to a proposal, a financial proposal. If you put forward to say, well, this thing is going to generate X amount and it's going to cost Y amount, there is justification why we should expend that money to get this money in the past. So that is the question of the...
But we have done proposal upon proposal to show them how much money Carnival could make, and nobody
You have not been able to
about
convince anybody.
Well, apparently you're not. Well, that means we're not very convincing, so I don't know how else to convince them to build something now. Because if we have Carnival already, we can't convince them to spend more money on it. Unless somebody tell you, if you're going to spend that money on Carnival, you have no bed in the hospital. Or you go spend so much money on Carnival when we can't get no water up in Lavantie. That's not about it. That's not about it. The thing about it is that this could bring the money to do all of that if managed in the right way. And this is what I have been trying to do since I've gotten here. But the thing about it is that you're financially constrained. I understand that the country is. But at the same time, you have to look at the amount of money that we can make from whatever it is to do it. That's what investment is all about. You try to put it in the best place, and people do not see Carnival for one reason or the other. The only people who don't see Carnival as a good investment is us.
Senator Tahaka.
Thanks, Chair. As much as it pains, I agree with you, Chairman. In fact, in the same Carnival in Calabar, there's a Trinidadian businessman based in the UK who rents thrown-away costumes to the Nigerians every year. But it's not thrown away. Fresh costumes that persons, after they perform, he pays them a disposal fee for it. Yeah. They get back some money, and he warehouses those, and he rents that to carnivals and hoteliers and festivals and casinos around the world. Now, maybe what NCC can benefit from is in your strategic planning process, have a request for proposals for media content. Persons can pay to watch pay-per-view on their online platforms. They don't need to create a television station for that anymore. Creating the Carnival City. And if you have those proposals in your strategic plan, then maybe we can try to encourage the Parliament to bring you all back again to interrogate the financial viability of that, and then you have the platform where the population can benefit from those proposals, and then persons may actually come forward to you. The question I want to have is that, my naval string is buried in School Road in Point Fortin, which is Point Fortin proper. So I take personal umbrage when you say Point Fortin Borough. They wouldn't be as big as Tobago. But I respect your opinion. However, I want to ask the question regarding the support for these carnivals that occur outside of the calendar of our national festival. So it's not just the regional carnivals, but the other things that happen, the stick fighting, the display of Mokojumbies. Do you have a hand in the Husay in Cedros and St. James? Do you have a hand in I don't know, the Ramblila festival? So all the different festivals that we have, in addition, the work of Pan Trinbago. What percent of your budget is dedicated to those other festivals?
All right. Husay, we're not involved in Husay. And you call another one Ramlila and so on. We are only involved, according to our act, Carnival and Carnival related. In fact,
So let me sharpen the question. Point 14 Borough Day, Separia Fest, Arima Borough Day. Are you all involved in those festivals specifically?
By providing traditional characters. That so far has been the extent of our involvement. But we want to deepen that. As the chairman said, NCC should have, and I want to use the word controlling very guardedly, because I don't mean, and I don't think the chairman means, that NCC must just go in and take over Point Fortin. No. NCC must have an input in Point Fortin Carnival and related carnivals and festivals that would help to make them grow and become better, bigger, and more financially sustainable. So when we talk about an interest from NCT, that is what we are talking about, not going in there and running it for them, because clearly the people who have been running it have a pretty good idea how to run the festival. It's been growing from strength to strength. As you know, hundreds of people come into Trinidad for Borough Day. Hundreds. NCC's vision is that could be thousands, repeatedly, and growing every year. As far as the amount of money, last year the allocation to PAN was 20.5. Right, I think it went up to 22 million, and that was against a budget of 148 million, sorry.
And
yes,
how
44 million of which we didn't get.
How was this disaggregated? But the real issue is what is the impact of this given given the work of Pan Trinbago? What is the impact of this 22 million?
I'm not sure how to answer that, except that I would like to clarify that NCC's subvention, or no, let me not use the word subvention, sorry. NCC's disbursements to and through Pan Trinbago for things that are PAN is not, they're not meant to mine Pan Trinbago. Similarly with the other special interest groups, the TUCOs and the TTCBAs. We are to assist in developmental ways. We are to partner with them to put on carnival events. So for instance, PAN semifinals, PAN finals, well, you know the slew of PAN things. Calypso Fiesta, Kaisorama, king and queens, individuals, semis, finals. Those are things that we partner with the special interest groups to put on. Apart from giving them, we are trying to change that paradigm, so forgive my hesitation using words like giving. Investing in their organizations to help their organizations grow in developmental ways, so that we can make mass, we can have people teaching mass, how to build mass, people being taught how to tune pans, how to compose calypsos, stuff like that.
Right. And so I want to just leave a closing comment regarding this engagement. To me, the problem we have in Trinidad and Tobago is, unless it's oil and gas, is not important. If it's not manufacturing, construction, is not revenue generating. So the issue that I have had as a researcher in economics is we don't have persons in these institutions. NAMDEFCO, for example, came before us, and they have no marketing capacity, and this is the marketing company for agriculture in Trinidad and Tobago. They only have one marketing person. Everyone else, all the positions are vacant. I would really be interested in seeing the strategic plan of NCC and trying to see if all these potential requests for proposals could get private sector interests, because clearly a subvention wouldn't help, all right? So that you can partner with right personnel, not persons just with the money, but persons who have the capacity to execute, all right? Jules Sobian is doing good work. He's carried his project, I think is Caesar's Army to Jamaica Carnival, all right? So I'm looking at, when do you think we can get this strategic plan, and so that we can contemplate, probably in another cycle, bringing you all forward and seeing where we can go? So that's my last question.
Well, so the strategic planning, the intervention is supposed to start between May and June. So, and we foresee a 2-month, maximum 3-month for the completion of the exercise. So I imagine by the end of third quarter, beginning fourth quarter of this year, we should be in a position to present. After we present, of course, through the ministry, we should be able to present to the committee.
The strategic plan that you anticipate is to be what, a 3-year plan, or is it?
A 3-year plan.
3-year plan.
Yes.
Okay. The NCC, this is just a final wrap-up question, really. The NCC is responsible for Carnival, and you are becoming entrepreneurial now and trying to invest in various components of Carnival. And you suggest that you even want to get into other things in a developmental way so that you can strengthen the Carnival input into those. That is what I understand you to say. Now, do you need, I mean, Carnival, the intense period of Carnival is about three months before Carnival. How is the 9 months or so after the last Carnival, leading up to the Carnival, spent by the NCC by and large? How do you operate?
Well,
I'm saying that because you mentioned the strategic plan.
Right, but like I said, this is my first year.
Yeah.
But the months we already start planning
for
next year. Okay. We have already started. As a matter of fact, we had a meeting on last Thursday. We're having our next meeting Thursday here. We have a meeting every week, basically. And we're going to start having a meeting every 2 weeks after this, because what we're doing here now is making sure that we have a good perspective of what went on. Yeah. And once we have a handle of that, which we would have by this next meeting, we start our meeting every 2 weeks. And then sometime in July, August, we're going to intense it again by having a meeting every week. Because you see, Carnival is a statutory thing. Yes. It's going to come. It's not that we don't know when it's Carnival. We already know when it's Carnival next year. So, like I said, the only constraint that we have is the lateness of the disbursement of funds. If you have the funds early, you would be able to do all the things. Like we have a statutory date now for the launch of Carnival, which we have put in place in September. The reason for doing that is that you give people who you want to come to Trinidad Carnival an opportunity to see, have a preview of what Carnival is going to be, and give them an opportunity to budget their time and budget their money into the Carnival and come to our Carnival. You see, we are not having Carnival for ourselves. We are the participant. We are playing. We are the artists of Carnival. We are doing it to bring money. Carnival is one of the best diversification tool that we can have in this country if we use it as such. If we don't use it, we only think about a Carnival as a diversification tool and talk about it when we have no money, when oil gone down to $5 a barrel or some kind of craziness like that. But the fact remains is that if we pay attention to Carnival, spend the money that is necessary with good management into the whole thing, with a good accountability, Carnival is one of the best diversification tools. You ask Canada, Canada don't need a Carnival. But the social benefit of Carnival in Canada and the economic benefit makes it worthwhile for them to have it. You think America need a Carnival in Miami, and they need one in New York, and they need one in New Orleans, Trinidad-type Carnival? They don't need it. That's Fort Knox. They have more money than we could afford to count. But the reason why they have it is because it's economically viable for them to continue to have it, and it fulfills the diasporic need as well. And this is what we are lacking in this country. We can't see that. How long are we trying to get that across? The time has come for us to look at Carnival as a diversification tool. We have to look at Carnival as a gross foreign exchange earner, because we could bring in more money in foreign exchange in Trinidad than we spend. The little bit of money that we're going to spend to advertise it it pales in comparison to what we can bring in. And I think that the time has come for us to do that, Mr. Chairman. And this is my remit as the chairman of the National Carnival Commission for as long as I'm there. I will do the best that I can, because my vision is totally clear as to what I want out of Carnival and what I see Carnival as. We need safety. We need a good place for people to play. We need to have a welcoming environment. And in order to have all those things, we have to spend the money to do it. If we don't spend the money, you only get out of life what you put into it. If you don't spend it and you don't find it necessary to make the the necessary sacrifices in order to do it, then we're going to get the same result that we've been getting all the time. People jump up Carnival Day, and the few people come here, and the bulk of them go to New York, or they go to Antigua, and they go to Barbados, and they go to Jamaica, and one of these days we just stay here showing off on ourselves. We are the best carnival in the world, and it does absolutely nothing to us.
All right, so can I assume that that is the perspective you're going to take over your next year as you plan for your next Carnival?
It is the perspective that we are going to be taking and trying. As long as I am there, that is the perspective, and I am leading it right this minute, and that is what I'm trying to do. That's what I'm trying to accomplish. I think we have partially accomplished it this year, and we are seeing the avenue for us to continue to do it, and it could only get better. But it can only get better with the necessary tool. And there's only one tool, really.
All right. As I want to bring this meeting now to a close. We've had a full discussion on the NCC and its role in Carnival and the development of Carnival. I just want to remind the chairman and the members who are here present before this committee of a few things. One is that we would like to see the audited accounts up to date and in the hands of the Auditor General. From my understanding of it, of all the things that were said, this should happen over a few months of this year at different stages. The second thing is that we need to see in the NCC an internal audit committee, internal audit capability. Thirdly, we need to see the issue of financial viability addressed in the strategic plan, understanding that it cannot be financial viability does not necessarily mean financially self-sufficient, okay? We need to see in the strategic plan the income generation elements so that there will be some kind of structure and sense of what is pursued and what is likely to be the return and stuff like that. And we need to see basically a strategic plan which looks at the sustainability and economic and even cultural transformation of Carnival, the product itself, for the 21st century, understanding the world that we live in. So we look to those things. We are grateful for the submissions and the discussion. I thought the discussion was very open and rich. And if you fulfill some of these basic obligations that are not entirely your doing, I mean, because you have an inheritance here, we understand the problem. I think that would be good. So I just want to thank you, Mr. Chairman, CEO, and the other members of the NCC for coming here and being forthright with us and sharing your views. I want to thank you, Permanent Secretary, and your staff from the Ministry for coming here. Auditor General, Deputy Auditor General, and staff, we want to thank you. You are the anchor of this entire process in the PAC, because it is your reports that generate these meetings, and your comments, your views, your rule is critical. And I want to thank the members of the public who are here and have an interest. And I certainly want to thank the media for staying with us during this time, and I hope that they will do justice to the reported so that people will know what this meeting was about, what are the issues that came up in the meeting, and what is the value of those issues that came up to them as citizens of the country. And of course, I want to thank my own colleagues around the table. They always do human service in taking a very, very responsible approach to the issue of accountability for all the institutions that come here. So thank you very, very much. And this meeting is now adjourned. Thank you very much.